Hey, Algebra 2. Today we're going to be talking about section 2.3 again and focusing on application and writing equations in factored form. So, factored form of a quadratic is y equals a times x minus, we can call it whatever we want, trying to think of a letter we haven't used yet, I guess like n times x minus n. Okay, so we got our factors here and potential a value. So let's do a word problem. Marco hits a golf ball into the air from the third level of a driving range. Sorry, there's more. Of a driving range that is 48 feet high. So Marco hits a golf ball into the air from the third level of a driving range that is 48 feet. The function h of t equals negative 16t squared plus 32t plus 48 gives the height h in feet of the golf ball t seconds after it's hit in the air. Okay. When will the ball hit the ground? Alright, so if we're looking for when the ball will hit the ground, then when we think about a quadratic, we're looking for the x-intercepts. So what we need to do in this situation is solve for the x-intercepts, and if it's a quadratic, then we can do that by factoring. So first thing we need to do is set our equation equal to 0. And now we're just going to focus on factoring. So remember, the first step in factoring is to factor out the greatest common factor if possible. And if we look here, the greatest common factor is going to be 16. But remember, we want to keep our a value positive. So we're going to factor out a negative 16. And we're left with t squared minus 2t minus 3. This is actually pretty straightforward. So if you like to show scrap work, remember we are going to ask ourselves, what multiplies to a times c and adds to equal b? So a times c is -3, our b value is -2. So what multiplies to -3 and adds to -2? That'll be -3 and +1. So if I'm going to do factor by grouping, it'll be 0 equals -16, and then t squared minus 3t plus t, and then -3. Then we focus on two groups and factor out the greatest common factor. Notice how I have my 16 on the outside the whole time, my equal sign and the equal 0. And we can factor out a t. Here nothing, so we put a +1 on the outside. And then our factors are t plus 1 and t minus 3. And now we solve. So we set each part equal to 0, right? 0 product property, so 0 equals -16, 0 equals t plus 1, 0 equals t minus 3. So that doesn't matter because it's not true. We get -1 and +3. Now, -1's not going to make sense here because it's going to be negative time, right? T equals time, so we can just ignore that, and t equals 3 will be the answer. But because this is a word problem, we need to answer the question. So what time, or when will the ball hit the ground? So the golf ball, specific, hits the ground after 3 seconds. And that's it. So the other kind of example we want to talk about today is writing an equation in factored form. So here is an example. Write an equation in factored form of a parabola with x-intercepts -5, 0 and 3/2, 0 that goes through to 49. So the first thing that you want to do is determine what the factors are. So you can solve for the factors. So if we know the x-intercepts, then I know that x equals -5 is one of my roots, and x equals 3/2 is another root. Now remember, factored form, we want it to be like x plus something, x minus something, or whatever. So to figure out, we want this to equal 0, right? So basically we're just working backwards. So this one's kind of easy, just add 5. So we will have x plus 5 equals 0. This one's a little bit harder. A common mistake is to just subtract 3/2. But when we have factors, we never have them as a fraction. It's not mathematically correct. So we want to multiply both sides by 2 first. So I'll even helps to get rid of it over here. So then we're left with 2x equals 3. And then we should subtract 3. So I guess it's not mathematically incorrect, but it's just factors should all be integers. So factors should be integers, no fractions. So now we've got both of our factors, so the next step is to substitute what you know into your equation. So we know y equals a, because there could be some sort of dilation, and then x plus 5 times 2x minus 3. And now we need to solve for a, which is why we gave you the point, right? It goes through this point, x comma y. So I'm going to replace my y value with 49, my x value with 2, and solve. So parentheses first, 2 plus 5 is 7, 2 times 2 is 4, 4 minus 3 is 1. So 7 times a times 1, we don't really need to show that step, but let's do it just because it's our notes. So it'll be 7a. Then we divide both sides by 7. So 7 is our a value, because 49 divided by 7 is still 7. So then our final answer, because I just asked for factored form, will be x plus 5 times 2x minus 3, or 7 times. And we're done. And then the only other thing that could happen is I could ask for standard form, in which case you would need to FOIL everything out. But that is it.